Welcome back to Storytime Dark. It is our goal to bring you the scariest, creepiest, and most thrilling stories from around the world. This evening we have hiking horror stories. If you like this sort of content, don't forget to drop us a like or subscribe. It would really help as we are a brand new channel. My name is Emily and I will be your robotic narrator. Here we go. When I was young, my dad lived in an old log cabin about 15 miles west of Sheridan, in the foothills of the Bighorn Mountains. Every summer when I was visiting, we would go up into the mountains backpacking and fishing for 2 days every weekend. We would park the truck, hike into a remote area fishing for trout along the way and make camp wherever we ended up. We encountered a number of strange, creepy things and got into some scary situations with wildlife, but the one that sticks with me the most was an ancient abandoned camp we found. We were hiking down a very steep slope to get to an area of a creek that had been dammed up by beavers, hoping to catch some big trout. I had climbed out on the rock ledge and was looking for a way down when I saw the stock and action of an old rusty rifle sticking out of a tree where the tree had grown around the barrel years before, about 10 above the ground. Dad and I climbed down to check it out, and we found a small cave at the base of the rock formation, only about 12 deep, which would make a nice natural shelter, but a really terrible place to set up a long-term camp. Inside we found a bunch of really old stuff. 3 heavy-gauge unopened cans of food, an old cast-iron pot that had holes rusted all the way through it, a crusty old saddle and bridle set, and a very deteriorated heavy wool blanket rolled up and tied with a leather belt. When we unwrapped the blanket, we found several personal items, including the rusty old cap and ball black powder revolver, a leather satchel with lead pistol shot, a powder horn with no black powder in it, tarnished old cartridges, presumably for the rifle in the tree, a straight razor, and most unsettling was a shirt with holes in it and over half of it stained with dried blood. As we stood there thinking about what all of this meant, it occurred to me how remote this place was even at that time. It was July of 1985, and the fact that whoever owned that shirt had been very seriously injured, stuck on a steep slope in the middle of absolutely nowhere. I got serious chills down my spine. The only thing that somewhat dated this fateful campsite was the pistol and the rifle, both of which were made sometime in the 1870s according to my father. There's no way to ever know what happened to the man who owned all this stuff, but the fact that he or someone he knew was obviously shot twice with either a gun or arrows and all his belongings were sitting right where he left them possibly 100 years later, it was highly unlikely he left that area alive. Discovering what amounts to a 100-year-old crime scene in the very remote wilderness kinda gave me the creeps. But mostly, it just made me sad to know how hopeless and alone this guy must have felt when he died. 6 hours walk through thick brush to the nearest passable road. Age 14, maybe 15, hiking and camping with 2 fellow Boy Scouts and an adult. We made camp for the night, had a cold dinner because it was too wet to scavenge firewood, and all turned in early. Even in the woods, there are noises. Frogs, owls, small game, and every sort of bug. My tent mate and I awoke at the same time, maybe 3 a.m., to hear nothing outside. Absolute ear-straining silence, like a woolen blanket wrapped around the head. After a few minutes, the bugs started chirping again and we went back to sleep. When we woke up in the morning, we found that 5 of the pine trees surrounding our little clearing had been connected in a star shape with scraped lines, and pinned to each one was a stickman, like the ones from the Blair Witch. The leader and his son, occupants of the other tent, accused us of messing with them, but we both knew it wasn't us. That's a story nobody believes. I mean, who would believe the alibis of 2 kids? I'll never camp without the safety of a large group and nearby civilization ever again. I went camping in Big Shore with one of my best friends. It was off-season and a Sunday night, so the place was practically empty. We picked a campsite about a half-mile walk to the ocean. It was in a huge open field surrounded by a lush forest. In the background were limestone mountains, and you could hear the crashing of the ocean's waves. Very epic. We spent the night around a campfire telling stories and eating. We are both pretty experienced backpackers too. We are very diligent in ensuring we do not leave any trace of food by our side, and almost everything other than our essentials goes in the bear bag box. I have my dog with me too. She's Ada, so she was allowed on the site. She's leashed around one of the few trees in the field on a long metal leash and full harness. It's a full moon out, and it was pouring beautiful blue lights across the field. It was absolutely pristine and breathtaking. Around 1 a.m., something spooks my dog. Now, she is used to the woods and has an incredibly calm demeanor. But, I mean, she is flipping out, tugging hard on the leash like she is desperate to escape, and she does. She pulls so hard that her harness snaps, and she goes bolting across the field into the wilderness. I lose my cool. I drop everything and bolt after her. I'm not thinking straight running into the woods at night. My only concern was getting her, even if it meant risking my own safety. I rescue her. I find her curled up on a random clearing in the woods, looking ashamed and terrified. Thank God she ran in a straight line, otherwise I would have been totally lost. I walk back carrying her, and my heart is pounding furiously at the horror of the idea of her being lost in the wilderness forever. The thought now is still unbearable. I can feel her heart pounding too in my arms. She's still terrified. I'm no longer in a great mood. We all head to bed in my tent, but my dog won't lay down. She refuses. Her ears are up and she's staring intensely at the tent wall, as if she could see through it and she's tracking something. It takes a while for my nerves to calm down from my chase earlier. I'm working hard at taking deep breaths and reminding myself that I'm prepared for anything that I could encounter. That my dog is simply spooked from maybe a raccoon. Maybe she's just exhausted and acting up. And then I hear it, cackling. Like a high-pitched laughter that is full of a disgusting type of joy, and it's coming from outside my tent. Fuck deep breathing, my senses go on high alert, my body tenses up so tightly it's like I'm about to break in half. I can't even breathe. And then I hear even more cackling, like a group of witches were doing something evil just yards away. It fills my hearing, laughing and more laughing. It's loud and it just sounds so wrong. I can't even bring myself to move to look at my friend. It's like my entire body has given up. The laughs are then followed up with blood-curdling screams. It honestly sounded like somebody was being murdered. It was full of panic and horror and sadness. It could have been wolves or coyotes killing their prey. But it sounded so distinctly human. The laughter, the sobbing, the screams. Finally my friend says something. What? What the heck? I even begin to laugh a little, because the situation was so intense and wild, I had no idea how else to react. I can't handle this, I say, and suggest that we bolt for the car. It's a mile away, so we decide to stay out. We just listen to the laughter and screaming until it fades away. Even when it was over, I didn't bother going to bed. Wildland firefighter with the Forest Service. Not my story, but from an old supervisor of mine that I believe completely. The setting is 2004 or so, Hell's Canyon area of Middle Idaho. His crew had been working all day on an emerging incident and were going to be working through the night as well. Being the assistant superintendent of the crew, second in charge, effectively, he was out ahead scouting on an ATV or some such. He was working his way down a logging road that clearly had not been used in some time when a bobcat or lynx, it's been a few years since I heard it, appears in the middle of the road, but doesn't run away as they usually would. The thing stands there for a good 10 seconds, screams at him, and scampers up a tree not 5 feet off the road. He finds this odd but not particularly unsettling. Just a half mile or so down the road, he finds a small cabin. Also odd, as this is federal land and no private structures should be there. Upon investigation, all the windows had been boarded shut tight and someone had done a good job of doing so. The doorknob had been punched out and secured to a hole drilled into the log frame by a chain. Someone did not want anything getting in or out. Peering through the hole in the door, he can see that everything in the house is upset. This has him kind of unsettled, so he hops on his ATV and heads back up the road. Well, here's where it gets real interesting. Right where the bobcat had been, there stands a Native American woman, in a badly tattered nightgown and bare feet. Just standing there. He yells at her, asking if she needs help. She just screamed at him, the same scream as the cat from before, and climbs right up the tree, faster than any human has a right to be climbing. Obviously, he knocks out of there as fast as he can. Unsure who or what he just saw, he asks a local guy about the cabin. After asking around a little, a local Native American hears them talking and informs them that they saw a Pumawa, excuse the likely butchered spelling. In effect, a skin changer, the Warg. Now, I would not believe most people that tried to tell me that. But this was a serious man that did not mess around about many things. He was dead serious the 2 times I've heard him tell it, and I 100% believe he saw what he saw. Me and my brother were hiking out in our new backwoods. We had just moved into a new house, and we stumbled upon a small open grass field. In the center of it, there was a person with a blue jacket crouched over. We thought it was a friend of ours that we had recently met, so I ran out to meet. I did not have my glasses on, but I got pretty close enough to see that it was a grown man leaned over the carcass of a deer, stabbing it with a new and sharpened stick. He looked up and saw me. I was pretty freaked out, so I turned around and yelled at my brother to run, and so we started to sprint as fast as we could back home. I do hope you enjoyed these 5 stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe to never miss an episode. We hope to upload almost daily. Goodbye from Emily.